Welcome back to Real One Productions Weekly Review. NFL Week 2 is coming up, but before we go there, we're going to recap the amazing Week 1. First game of the year was Texans versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs took that one easily, 34-20. Jets, Bills. Did y'all think Josh Allen would lose? Hell no. Bills win 27-17. Packers and Vikings. Vikings did have a lead for the moment, but A-Rod wasn't playing. Jordan Love, you stand on the sideline forever. Packers take that one 43-34. We got the Eagles versus the Washington football team. Washington was not playing with Carson Wentz. They took that game 27-17. Browns versus the Ravens was a snoozer. Browns should have never came to Baltimore. You know they about that wire life. Ravens went 38-6. Jaguars and the Colts. We said the Jaguars were tanking, but Gardner Minshew, a.k.a. Joe Montana, wasn't having it. Jaguars take that one 27-20. Raiders versus the Panthers. That was a back-and-forth affair. Luke Kuechly, I guarantee the Panthers right now will offer you $100 million a year to come back. The Raiders take that one 34-30. Bears versus the Lions. I don't even want to talk about this game. Jalen Wilson is up there in Illinois. Big Chicago supporter. DeAndre Swift, did you leave your hands in the locker room or not? Did you leave them at Georgia or not? Coming out the draft, Mel Kiper and them was saying, you were do it all back, 3 down back. Nah, you cost the game, Holmes. Seahawks and Falcons, neither team burned their defense. Seahawks taking that one 38-25. Dolphins versus the Patriots, that's a purist game. The Patriots take that one 21-11. Chargers, Bengals, another purist game. Chargers take that one 16-13. The Bengals kicker should have been fired before the game was over. Cardinals versus 49ers. That was my pick. That was my upset pick of the week. Cardinals take that one 24-20. Buccaneers versus the Saints was R1P's game of the week. It wasn't. Saints take that one 34-23. Rams versus Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Rams took that one 20-17. Refs, you cost me my fantasy game. Dak Prescott, you cost me my fantasy game. Ezekiel Elliott, you cost me my fantasy game. Y'all gotta see me on Mothers. See, Steelers versus the Giants. Giants offensive line was the worst thing I've seen all week. Probably with the exception to the kickers. Steelers take that one 26-16. Titans versus the Broncos, another purist game. Titans take that one 16-14. We are done with week 1. On to week 2. Up next, we got the Thursday Night Football recap. It was a thriller in Ohio. It'll be myself and Moon Vibes on the call. Browns, Bengals, the Thursday night thriller, where the Cleveland Browns won the game 35-30, but Joe Burrow definitely impressed with LeBron James, saying he has the it factor. He completed 37 of his 61 passes for over 316 yards and 3 touchdowns. Nick Chubb also impressed with 22 totes for $124 and 2 touchdowns himself. Moon Vibes, what was your biggest takeaways from this game?
All right, so let's start with the Browns. This was the Kevin Stefanski offense that we all were expecting when he got hired. Let's just be honest. The Cleveland Browns got blown out and completely embarrassed, and the Kevin Stefanski aides in Cleveland got off to a horrific start in week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. This week, however, it was entirely different. It was like a new energy was in the air. Kevin Stefanski gave Baker Mayfield more play action concepts with a few outside zone bootlegs, breathing new life into their passing game. With Cleveland's initial 15 plays of the game, did you know that Baker Mayfield experimented with 7 passes? 3 of them came from the form of an outside zone bootleg.
Oh, wow.
Interesting enough, Baker went 3 for 3 for 78 yards and 1 touchdown and 2 big-time throws on those plays. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally got to see Odell happy after a win. Because
Absolutely.
he was a part of the game plan and he got his big pay opportunity. This was refreshing to see, honestly. Although Baker was 16 for 23, 219, and 2 touchdowns with a crucial pick in the 4th quarter, he did just enough for them to win this game, and he wasn't really special while doing it. Thinking about it deeply, I can't help but to feel one more turnover, and that could have been the deciding factor in the Cincinnati Bengals actually upsetting the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. So that's number one. Number two, Joe Burrow was a more impressive quarterback, and his
Absolutely.
offensive line needs some serious work. That's my other takeaway. Burrow had to play from behind for most of the game, and his stat line showed us that at the night's end, he tripled Baker Mayfield's dropbacks in the game. And I must also add that he went 37 for 61 for 316 yards and three scores. I could have argued that he invited some pressure on himself and should have seen Miles Garrett coming on that strip sack. However, that porous offensive line had Joe under pressure on 32% of his dropbacks. Think about that. When he
Wow.
wasn't under pressure, extremely quick passes was the result. Of his 45 pass attempts from a clean pocket, Joe Burrow had a time to throw of under 2 seconds on 19 of those dropbacks. That would be hard for any quarterback to overcome, and despite all these odds stacked against him, Burrow wasn't terrible. It could have been better, you can admit, but it could have been way worse. How many NFL QBs would have struggled behind that offensive line? I would imagine a good portion of them will. But his nicest throw transpired on his first career touchdown pass. How ironic. Since he cooked up four verticals against the Cleveland's cover six defense and it hit the weak side cover two hole perfectly. That was the only downfield shot he hit all game out of his 61 attempts. I know it's only week two, but it's impressive how he shows up in big moments as a rookie. His
Hmm.
final drive in week one and going 5 for 5 on fourth down against the Browns showcases this. My last hot take and my biggest takeaway: Cleveland's offensive line cleared big holes for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and the
Oh my
one-two
goodness.
punch literally ate. They ate the whole night. Although we
Absolutely.
bashed Cincinnati's offensive line in this segment, Cleveland's offensive line was pretty promising on the evening. There was a lot. There wasn't a lot of drop back scenarios. However, they held their own in pass protection. Now with the run game, this group needs as much recognition as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt get, and that they are receiving. It's easy to point to Chubb and Hunt and praise their stellar performances, but we should do the same with their offensive linemen. Fun fact: of those 9 gains of 10 or more yards on the ground, Chubb and Hunt had at least 3 yards before contact on 7 of them. For perspective, that's two more than any offense in the NFL had in week one. But if I talk about the impact, I have to talk about fantasy impact, and let's talk about the biggest loser of the night. It pains me to say this, but Joe Mixon, you were the biggest loser of the night, my good sir.
Wow.
The Bengals running back was drafted in the first round of many fantasy drafts, and we've been waiting on him to live up to that value. He was running back 35 this week, and after recording 86 yards from scrimmage along with zero touchdowns, fantasy owners of all kinds should be worried. Their offensive line struggled in pass protection and in run backing, and fun fact, the Bengals played Giovanni Bernard over Mixon in the 2 minute drill in the first half, and they played him significantly more in the second half when they were working towards coming back. It seems like the only Joe on Cincinnati with fantasy value isn't Mixon. It's actually Burrow.
That's a hot take for you. Brought to you by the one and only Moon Vibes. Moon Vibes, before we end this segment, I have a couple of questions. Question number one. Bengals next 3 games. They got 10 days, then they go up to Philly to play the Eagles. So 10 days, not bad. After that, they play home against the Jags, and then after that, they go to Baltimore. So do you see them getting a win within the next 3 weeks? And after 5 games, what do you think their record will be?
Oh my goodness. All right, so week one they should have won against the Chargers.
Absolutely.
If Randy Bullock didn't miss his, never mind. Let me not get into Randy Bullock. Hey, Randy, if
Right.
you're watching this, look, hey, is it your right leg or your left leg? Never mind. Listen. So with this situation with Joe Burrow, he should be 1-1 right now. He lost fair and square to the Browns, and it was only about 5 points. And Honestly, he was a more impressive quarterback. But then you say the next game is against Philadelphia. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia ends up winning in a game that you feel that Doug Peterson is going to be 3-0 after this game
Mm-hmm.
against Sean McVay. I think that Philly could be on their high horse and thinking that the ship is right, and then you think Joe Burrow getting 10 days rest. It could be a sneaky game. He could win that game. I could see that happening. Their offensive line against that killer Philadelphia, it just doesn't. 2.2 yards a carry is what I'll say to justify that point. It
Wow.
doesn't seem good for Joe Mixon, and it doesn't look good for Joe Burrow. But the next week against Jacksonville, that's a game that I can definitely see them winning for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And I can see that being a game where we have a battle between the the mustache and Gardner Minshew,
Uh-huh.
and we have a battle against the only fantasy relevant player on really Cincinnati right now, and Joe Burrow. I can see them taking that game, but the next game against the Ravens, yep, it's already a dub. It's already a dub. We don't even got to talk about that game. It's over for that one. But yeah, hopefully I answered the questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Next question. Joe Burrow. Is he the best quarterback you've seen drafted within the last 5, 6 years? And you got
Mm,
such a small sample size. I know, but I'm kind of putting you on the
mm,
spot here by asking you that.
that's tough. That is super tough. So I gotta go. So that's Carson Wentz draft class. That's Kyler Murray's draft class. Does that include Deshaun Watson's draft class too?
Yes, yes,
Patrick
and Patrick
Mahomes' draft class?
Mahomes. Yes.
I'm not even about to do that to myself. Um,
I mean, because
I don't think that
Mahomes,
it's.
we didn't even see year one.
Yeah, we didn't even see him year one. We did see Lamar
Mm-hmm.
at the tail end. Um, Colin Murray kind of came in and like was thrusted into the fire week one. That's really what I would look at as a comparison. We can't forget about quarterbacks like Daniel Jones
Uh huh.
and Carson Wentz, Dak, Jared Goff. I'm just gonna say hot take. Is he? The question is he the best quarterback?
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah, hot
Wow.
take. Yeah.
Wow.
Dealing with what he's dealing with right now, there's the only comparison I can think of right now is just Kyler, what he had to deal with last year
Mm-hmm.
with that porous offensive line. There's a reason why they was picking number one, and that was tough. That was tough on him last year. But thank goodness that he got DeAndre Hopkins. That was a relief.
Yeah. Wow.
However, the reason why I say yes is because he's dealing with a situation where he's literally the only option.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust AJ Green right now. I'm still out for T Higgins. I want him to show me more. I want Tyler Boyd to show me more. Definitely want Joe Mixon to show me more. But my offensive line, my offensive line can't even hold a block for 2 seconds. So I barely got 2 seconds. I got basically got 1.5 seconds to throw the ball. To see him play the way he did, Joe Burrow is going to be very good and very very fast.
Wow. Wow. You heard it here first at R1P. I have to agree with you because I feel like Mahomes went to a much better situation with a play caller like Andy Reid. We've already discussed Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. Kyler Murray's situation was quite interesting with Cliff Kingsbury, but you still had veteran leaders on the offensive side of the ball like Larry Fitzgerald. Lastly, the Cleveland Browns' next two games are against the Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys. At that, by the fourth game, what is their record?
So right now they're 1-1. By the fourth game, their record will be 1-3. Yeah,
Don't
big
see them
take.
winning either game.
Nope. Repeat their matchups again in the next two
The
weeks.
next one is against the Washington football team. The game after that is against the Dallas Cowboys.
Washington football team, their defensive line is for real. I don't see how you can be able to do play actions to that degree and have that many pass rushers coming up field to you, uh, it scares me because yeah, we can see Odell give you production, but yeah, Odell only had four catches yesterday, and that pretty deep ball that he Baker threw was really dope. But I could see Washington giving Cleveland fits.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I can see them giving fits. Now they'll be able to stack up too when it comes in the run game. The second game is more interesting. Um, I just see them being 1-3, and I know people are up there and everybody's saying, "Hey Baker, we proved it. We proved it. Like yes, like you finally showed up." But yet he didn't even really play that good. Yeah, he had a high QBR, but yeah, he had higher QBR than Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson did last week. That's and Baker's stats does not show that. You can't tell me that he had a better performance than Aaron Rodgers did last week. So I think that he's more of a liability than an asset for their team, and it's going to be due time for them to realize it. And now it's not me bashing Baker. However, if Nick Chubb doesn't have 20 plus carries and Kareem Hunt doesn't show out when he's spelling him, that game is totally different. The Bengals are the same Bengals that gave up the Lamar Jackson spin move. so so why are we surprised that they gave up so many rushing yards? This is in their DNA. This is in their blood.
Right.
Like, so I'm not surprised. However, when you play more stout competition with defenses, I think that changes. So yeah, I see the
No
record
doubt.
being 1-3.
All right, so that's your Thursday night football recap. Up next, we got the game of the week, the Patriots and the Seahawks. Let's go.
What's going on, guys? It's Cool Brad from 1's Productions, and today I'm going to be taking you guys over the New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks injury reports and spread. So, the New England Patriots injury report, we have Matthew Slater, wide receiver, and he is questionable for the game. We have Josh Uche, linebacker, and he is out for the game. Julian Edelman, wide receiver, and he is questionable for the game. Dalton Keeney, tight end, he is questionable for the game. N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, and he is questionable for the game. That concludes the New England Patriots injury report. On to the Seattle Seahawks injury report. We have Rasheem Green, defensive end. He is out for the game. We have Cedric Iguodala, offensive tackle, and he is out for the game. Philip Dorsett, the second wide receiver, and he is questionable for the game. The spread is plus 3.5, and the Patriots have that. So yeah, on to my man KT.
We got the Patriots and Seahawks Super Bowl XLIX rematch. It's always interesting when these two teams play. I am going to go with the Patriots this game. It's no way you can pick Seattle for this game. If you go and relook at that Atlanta game, I know the score said differently. That game was a lot closer than it appeared. They allowed Matty Ice to throw for 450 yards against them. I don't care who's at receiver. Brad, if you got one play the slot, Jalen, you got X, Moon, you got Y. You don't allow 450 yards and be considered a good defense. Belichick's defense will get stops. They got the best cornerback in the league and Gilly Lock. It's no way you bet against the Patriots here. I got the Patriots winning 27-20. On to my man Jalen.
As a Patriots fan, I'm gonna admit I don't have the Patriots winning. Um, and I know it might be a shock, but it's not gonna be game of the week. It's just not. To add on is that the Patriots don't have the wide receivers that the Falcons have, and KT, I know you said it doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. Like because Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley can't get that separation that N'Keal Harry lacks, and the Edelman lacks sometimes. Even though he's good at it, it's just that I don't know. Then I don't, and I don't. I mean, you you look at Russell Wilson. He threw for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns and went 31 for 35 in passing. I definitely think that this could be a good game, but it isn't gonna be game of the week worthy. So I have the Seahawks winning. And ultimately, I got Moon.
All right, I'll wrap it up by giving y'all some three stats that I found about this game that are going to be interesting. So, number one, first stat, the number 322. 322. That's how many yards Russell Wilson threw for in week one against my Atlanta Falcons. Talk about letting Russ cook barbecue chicken, because that's exactly what it happened. What might be more impressive is that he completed 31 out of 35 passes. And if you do the math, that translates to about 88.6% completion percentage. Now, he racked up four touchdown passes as well. He looked otherworldly with his precision and deep ball accuracy. Quarantine hasn't affected Russ, and if anything, he's made him better. And it really increases his confidence. And we saw that play out when he got awarded in the NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors for Week One. My next number, 2-6. This is the first time that Cam will face the Seahawks as a Patriots quarterback in a Patriots uniform. But Super Cam sees Seattle his fair share of times in his career, and honestly, the results have not been in his favor. Now, Newton is only 2-6 against Seattle with 60% completion rate. And peep this, balances everything in life, but not just in this situation because his total touchdowns and total turnovers against the Seahawks match at nine apiece. And those aren't two statistical categories you want to be balanced. Now, Seattle also impeded Cam Newton from running the ball, holding him to just 31 rushing yards per game. Although he was the Patriots' leading rusher in Week One with 15 carries for 75 yards. Newton will need to find other ways around the Seattle Seahawks defense, which I absolutely feel like he can. Can Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator for the Patriots, compensate for that? The last number, 506. 506 yards to be exact. Similar to the Patriots, it seems that the Seattle D wasn't operating at peak efficiency last week against my Atlanta Falcons, where they allowed and racked up 506 yards. Now, they don't have the same outstanding defense that they did a few seasons ago, and they still present a challenge. Now, this number is a good sign for the Patriots since they will exploit whatever area their opponent is weak in. I can see Cam Newton figuring out a way to not only run the ball, but also to use his matchups to his advantage. And I can see my prediction being this. The Seahawks were 22nd against the run and 26 against the pass with passing yards allowed. I expect the Pats to continue to emphasize ball control, style of offense, nothing too sexy or too cute, high probability passes, solid special teams, and, let their defense win the game. And relatively low scoring is why I don't feel like this game will be the game of the week as it is in the slot. But I can see a situation where we have Russ limited and he doesn't cook so much like he did against my Falcons.
Wow, excellent.
Can I add on one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pete Carroll. If you're watching this, which you probably not, if it comes down to the final seconds and the ball is at the 1 yard line, you got option between run and pass, run the ball.
Yo, we real Once Productions. This was the Patriots Seahawks game of the week. Off to our next segment. Yo, it's Jalen Wilson and Moon Vibes here from Real Ones Productions, and we're here to break down the Ravens versus Texans game that some people think is going to be close, but I think it's going to be a blowout. But that's the easy pick. We'll get Jalen's picks in a second, and before we get into any of this, let us get into the injury report for both teams. And let's start with this. Baltimore Ravens all-pro offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley sprinted onto the practice field Friday and stepped to the front of the line to take the first repetitions in individual drills. Though the Ravens 1-0 listed Stanley as questionable to play on Sunday at Houston, who is 0-1 because of a hip injury, several signs suggest he'll likely suit up for the game, which is important for their not only their pass blocking but for their run game too. Same goes for cornerback Jimmy Smith, also questionable with the hip injury. Both Stanley and Smith missed Wednesday's practice, but were on the field the past 2 days. Now, here is the full injury report for both the Texans and the Ravens. Out is wide receiver Chris Moore with a finger. DT Justin Matabuki with a knee injury. Doubtful, no one. Questionable, Ronnie Stanley, Jimmy Smith, and running back Justice Hill with a thigh injury. Now, for the Texans, no one is out, and actually, no one is doubtful. Only people that are questionable is wide receiver Brandon Cooks with a quad injury, guard tackle Titus Howard with an ankle injury, and we also have running back Duke Johnson who was banged up with an ankle injury, and inside linebacker Peter Kalambayi with a hamstring injury. Now, Mori Matabuki haven't practiced in several weeks, so the ruling on both roles players is unsurprising. Hill, who missed last week's season opener with over the Browns, returned to practice this week. Now, the Ravens have rarely activated four running backs for a game, and the team got by fine last week with Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards suiting up in the backfield. So it's unclear whether Baltimore would ask Justice Hill to even play if he was healthy enough to see the field. Hill practiced without restrictions on Friday, suggesting that he's moving towards full strength. Over the four Texans who are questionable, only Kalimbayi missed a practice. He appeared to be on the injury report for the first time Thursday and did not practice on Friday. And that is the injury report for this must-win game for the Texans. I pass it out over to Jalen, a journalist, to give you more in-depth on the Texans.
Okay, so the Texans for the first week they struggled at stopping the run. They gave up 166 yards running wise, and that concerns me mainly because look who they're going up against. They're going up against Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Lamar Jackson, and 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 for a defense that struggles stopping the run, you really don't want to see that run game
No,
because they could just tear you up. And then you add on that Lamar Jackson had a good game passing wise, where I think he had 273 yards passing, along with like 3 touchdowns.
Mark Andrews had two of those.
And it's like, and then you got to consider the fact that the Texans struggled without DeAndre Hopkins last week, as they really didn't get into a groove on offense until like later on in the game when the game was decided. Like we already knew Kansas City was going to win near like the end of the midway through the fourth. We knew Kansas City that they were going to win, and that's when the Texans start building up drives and everything. But it's just I don't trust the Texans offensive line also, and since the Texans offense struggled against Kansas City's defense, they're I think they're going to struggle against a much better defense than the Ravens.
I totally agree with you, bro. I really do. Now, some interesting things I just thought about while you were explaining. We talked about the Texans and their offensive line. Deshaun Watson basically running for his life. Um, he was pressured a lot, sacked a lot. We saw him escape the pocket. We saw him score on a read option to tie the game. Well, not even tie the game, but to bring the game more to a manageable distance.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I want to know is the Texans' defense. And something that hasn't been spoken about is this. Last week they let Travis Kelsey kind of go off against them, and he had a very productive game. And they played a lot of zone, and it seemed like Travis Kelsey was just finding the holes in the zones. In the red zone, I know he had that big one red zone touchdown, but when you see Mark Andrews on the Ravens give you two touchdowns, one of those passes was just like he saved Lamar because Lamar just threw it too hard almost overthrew him in the red zone. He put so much zip on that ball. It makes me think, does Mark Andrews have another back-to-back top 5 fantasy game for the tight end position? It makes you think, especially since they gave up that many yards to Travis Kelsey. Another notable thing for me with the Ravens side of the ball, we talked about the offensive line and Ronnie Stanley coming back. Hopefully he plays. But do we see a situation where uh, this game on the opposite end of the spectrum? I mentioned him, David Johnson. Can we see a situation where the Texans are doing ball control and trying to convert on third downs and use David Johnson because he looked, if anything, was a breath of fresh air. It was definitely
Yeah,
David
he
Johnson
was.
in the game. Yeah, with the running. Now I would like him to get more receiving yards, but at the same time, it seemed like they use him more effectively as a runner, and I think Bill O'Brien is so desperately needy to prove that this trade was worth it and valuable. So can you see a
Yeah.
situation where David Johnson, has 20 carries or 20 over 20 touches?
Yes, and it comes from the point that what you said, that he wants to try to prove that this trade was a good trade. Um, and that can come back to bite you, because when you try to prove people wrong, it can really come back to bite you, because then you can try to do too much and it
Hmm.
fail. But
Exactly.
20 carries though, I think with this with the offensive line, I I would think they would give him the ball a, l- 20 yeah, 20 times, at least 20 times.
I
If
feel I feel like that's their only chance, honestly, to really win. And 20 touches, I'm thinking maybe like if it's 15 carries and maybe 5 catches, screens or something that they can get him out of space
Yeah,
so that the offensive line doesn't have to pass protect. But like it seems like the Texans are a more physical offensive line when they're run blocking. It's kind of like the opposite of my Atlanta Falcons. Like Falcons kind of struggle when it comes to run blocking, but pass blocking, like they can hold up. Um, with the Texans, like every time Deshaun Washington tries back to pass, I'm just kind of nervous. Like, dang, are they really going to be able to protect him? And David Johnson, he's even more important this week since Duke Johnson, his Johnson backfield mate, is currently banged up with an ankle, I believe. So David Johnson's workload is just increasing even more. Do you think that he not we talked about him having 20 plus carries, but if he let's say he doesn't, is is that the only way that the Texans can stay in the game, or do you see another ways that they can stay in the game?
the only other way I can see them staying in the game is if their defense just plays stellar, like just plays just plays out this world, and I don't see that happening. So yeah, about getting him 20 touches, yeah, that's about the only way, and of course getting other running backs involved too. Yes, that's about the only way I think they can have a chance to win.
Hey, you heard it here first. Hey, Jayla, what's your score for this game? Texas versus Ravens. Gut feeling.
It's gonna get ugly. Uh, um, 45-17, Ravens.
mm, sheesh. Uh, all right. So my gut feeling is saying, you can always go with the easy answer. I want to say Texans so incredibly badly because I don't want them to start the season 0-2. However, sometimes another one bites the dust, and sometimes you got to be more careful. And you got to be more careful when you trade away your top wideout, thinking that you can replace the production with Will Fuller and an injured Brandon Cooks. So I think David Johnson has an interesting game. I could see him definitely be fantasy worthy of a top running back one this week, because that's the only way I feel like they can stay in the game. But my gut feeling is telling me Ravens Ravens 38, Texans 20, and
Okay,
they get a lot of their points in garbage time,
like last game.
like last game, just like last game. Hey, you heard it here first. It's Jalen and Moon Vibes, and with Real on Productions, and a must-win game for the Texans. We both got the Ravens winning. Now we're off to our next segment. Yo, it's Moon Vibes, it's Lever and KT, and we're here to give you the latest with the Rams versus Eagles plus our predictions. But before we get into it, let's start with the injury report first with the Philadelphia Eagles, since theirs is longer. So, Fletcher Cox, D tackle, not injury related. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He practiced to full capacity on Thursday and Friday. He's expected to go. Brandon Graham, DN, had a concussion, didn't practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and he was a full practice on Friday. However, he's still questionable. Deshaun Jackson, not injury related. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but he practiced in full capacity on Thursday and Friday, so he's expected to be full tilt. Alshon Jeffrey, the other wide receiver, he has a foot. He didn't practice all week. He's the only Eagle that's out knowingly. Javon Hargrave, defensive tackle, had a pectoral and a hamstring, and he was limited capacity all week except Friday. And he looks like he'll be fine to play. Jason Peters, he's interesting. He has a knee injury. He was limited in participation on Wednesday. Full practice on Thursday, however, limited again on Friday. And I'm thinking he's just because it's a veteran and they want to give him some rest. He's expected to be full tilt. Derek Barnett had a hamstring injury and he practiced in full all week. However, he's still questionable for the game. Lane Johnson, tackle, had an ankle injury. He practiced in full on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and practiced again in full. So that's a great sign for them with the
Absolutely.
offensive line. And he has no injury designation going into the game. And last but not least, Miles Sanders, running back, hamstring. We have a full practice on Wednesday, full practice on Thursday, and then yes, a full practice on Friday, which is exciting to see because I'm excited to see what Miles Sanders does with Dougie P this second year. I'm really excited for that. But that's the Eagles. Let's get to the more simpler LA Rams. Gerald Everett had a back. He didn't practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and full on Friday. He's questionable for the game. Andrew Whitworth, offensive lineman, had a non-injury related injury. Practiced on Thursday in full capacity and Friday on full capacity, and he's expected to go full tilt. Also notable about Andrew Whitworth, before I pass it to KT, he was rated the number one offensive lineman for Pro Football Focus this past week
That's
for week
impressive.
1. Super impressive. What was not impressive was this week 1 game that the Philadelphia Eagles had against the Washington football team, where they totally got embarrassed. The only other embarrassing game was pretty much the Browns versus the Ravens, where the Browns got totally annihilated. But we saw the second close with the Philadelphia Eagles. Talk to us about this game. What's your gut feeling, since I know you watched it? And we'll start with you there.
Rams, Eagles definitely got game of the week vibes written all over it. Watching the Eagles play last weekend was, if you're a Philadelphia fan, heartbreaking. To be up 17-3, blow the lead in a fashion that they did blow the lead. It was one of those things. We don't know if the makeshift line that Philadelphia put together out there week 1 was that bad, or was the front seven for the Washington football team that good, because they were able to get a lot of pressures. Carson Wentz in some ways remind me of Tom Brady. If you can get to him often, I'm sorry, if you can get to him early and get to him often, he's not one of those players who, you hit him enough, he's going to start hearing footsteps and throw bad passes, and we definitely seen that on Sunday. But with all that being said, Doug Peterson is 2-0 versus Sean McVay.
Wow.
I'm saying after this
Crazy
weekend,
good
he's three.
stat, though, by the way.
He's 3-0 versus Sean McVay after the weekend with the score of 34-27. Philly, even though they lost last week to Washington, they still only gave up 2.2 yards a carry last week to Washington, even though they lost the game. And I don't see the Rams rushing for much at all on Philly, so it's going to rely on Sean McVay's play calling and Jared Goff. It is definitely going to be interesting. I think the Rams average against the Cowboys a little under 4 yards a carry, not bad. I think it was 153 total yards, but the Rams didn't finish drives against Dallas.
Yes.
They could
Yep.
have had more points, just like we spoke on the Buffalo Bills,
Mm-hmm.
leaving points out there. The Rams could have scored more points. They didn't finish drives. You're not going to be able to do that against Doug Peterson. Once again,
Mm-hmm.
Philly 34, the Rams 27. How do you feel about this game, Mo?
It's interesting with this game. You know how I feel about them early games for West Coast teams. 10 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast, but 1 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast when you flying out there. That's always one of those things. It's like, and then when you look at the line, if I'm not mistaken, they open up at 5.5 for the Rams being favored, but now it's a 1 point favorite for the Rams. But let's just be honest, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why it's like that is because of the uncertainty with the Philadelphia Eagles. We don't know what we're gonna get this second week because this first week was just such a shocker. I think everybody outside of the Washington football team and Ron Rivera thought that they was gonna lose to the Eagles coming out first week, and based on the first half, we thought the same thing too. We was like, "Yo, Carson coming out here firing. They're
Right.
not playing. They
Right.
doing the Washington football team dirty." But I think that what's interesting is this. Fun fact, KT, Carson Wentz, after 6 other games where he threw 2 or more interceptions, the next game he rebounded well and cleaned up his mistakes. Yeah, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 66.4 completion percentage, 258 yards a game, and a QB rating of 90.4. It's interesting. That makes him dangerous. When we talk about quarterbacks, just that went into that 2016 draft class, Goff, Wentz, Dak. It's interesting that they are all in a situation where they're in the NFC, and now we have to compare them to each other, and mix and match. Okay, what if Dak was in Carson's situation? Would he be able to still be productive, or the other way around? Or Jared Goff? Like, interesting question, and I'll give you a hot take question. Do you think that Jared Goff depends too much on Sean McVay's play calling for him to be successful as a quarterback?
Absolutely. Sean McVay is one of the great minds in the NFL. He's super creative. Um, Even though they didn't finish a lot of drives last week, Robert Woods looked like a top five in a
Yes.
receiver in NFL last week. And
Just
that's
got paid too.
yeah, he deserved it after that game. And as a Bills fan, I was happy to see that because he's always been a great route runner, great run blocker. He's definitely underrated in a run blocking game. So yes, he depend, but I think any quarterback would depend on McVay's mind. McVay is very young to be a head coach, so he's one of the most brilliant minds in the NFL. So does he depend on his mind a little too much? Absolutely. But it's one of those things. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, who wouldn't? And we talk about this game. Fun fact also, although Jared Goff's production last year kind of saw him, tail off, everybody kind of questioned him, he still had 4,600 yards. Dak Prescott, even though he took a lot of heat and criticism last year, he still had 4,900 yards. Carson Wentz was actually the one that with the lower amount as far as passing yards totals. But in this situation, I think that Carson can improvise better than Jared Goff and Dak Prescott can, and that's the main reason why I'll take him over Jared Goff and Dak Prescott. If I'm just being real with you,
Wow.
I think that not only improvising, but just natural talent. There's a reason why Carson Wentz went that high. And coming out of North Dakota State, he didn't suffer a lot of injury. He barely was, had any injury history. But we saw him leading that MVP season, and then boom, it's crazy. But that game that he got that had that happen, if I'm not mistaken, was against the Rams that he lost. So it's just interesting to see the comparison between these three quarterbacks. Who would you choose if you had the choice to choose between Goff, Wentz, or Carson? I mean, Goff, Wentz, or Dak.
I'm taking Dak, and I don't think it's a difficult decision to make. Granted, Dak did have that game last year against Philly, where Carson Wentz pretty much had the three stooges at wide receiver and was able to win. And we will definitely talk about the Cowboys more during that segment, because I don't see Amari Cooper as a true number one. We went up against top tier corners like
Wow.
Gilly, like Tre'Davious White.
Mhm.
Where was he? He completely disappeared. But what I will say, as great as Jason Garrett has been, you look at his career record as a head coach. He definitely has a winning record. I just think Doug Peterson is one of the great play callers in the NFL. Same
Mhm.
thing with Sean McVay. If you plug Dak Prescott in those systems where he's an Iron Man. He doesn't miss games, bro. Say what you want to
Mhm.
say about Dak Prescott.
Durable.
He doesn't miss games. He's durable, and I like his scrambling ability more than Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Is he's a natural thrower like Wentz and Goff? No, and I would say as far as timing and pinpoint accuracy, Goff may be the most pinpoint accurate out of all of them. But Carson definitely having the strongest arm. But I'm
Yeah.
still taking Dak. I want somebody who's going to be there, win me games. Give me Dak.
Hey, fun fact to the audience and to KT: the LA Rams are currently on the midst of a six-game losing streak to the Philadelphia Eagles that dates back to 2004. And I don't know if you remember something legendary that happened in 2004. The greatest Madden that was ever released with that man, that number seven on
Preach,
the cover. Number
preach.
seven on the cover that actually played for the Eagles for a little short period of time, man. That was back in 2004. That's the last time that the Rams have beat the Eagles. Now, you said that Doug Peterson was going to allow them to be 3-0 by the time Sunday is over.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know what? I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna agree with you on that take. Just like the home opener in beautiful SoFi, aka the $5 billion Playhouse, the betting line for this contest opened with the Rams at a 3.5 underdog. Now, of course, after the opener, the money is currently flipping to the Rams, and now they're a 1 point favorite. But like we said before, that has more to do with the Eagles and their uncertainty around them than it has to do with, I think, the Rams. Speaking of the Rams, Aaron Donald is a problem. This man choke slammed Zeke like the Undertaker, and didn't have no mercy. It was
Right.
bad. Uh, my gut feeling for this is this. If I'm just being realistic, early game, 1 point favorite, pick 'em game. Over under for this is 45.5. You think it's over or under?
Definitely over.
Definitely over. So we
Yeah.
get that situation. I'm not gonna give a score because I'm so uncertain about it. However, I do say the Eagles cannot go 0-2. And if we having this conversation on the next episode and we talking about the Eagles 0-2, then something is desperately wrong. And yeah, I got the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Rams on Sunday, and there you have it. This is the Rams Eagles Real Ones Productions hot takes and injury report, and hopefully you agree with us. And if you don't, hey, be sure to comment in the chat on YouTube, and definitely send us an email with your hot take. Who would you take, Goff, Wentz, or Dak Prescott?
Hey, amazing work, Moon Vibes, as always. We're going to send this off to Jalen, and he's got the Packers and the Lions.
Hey yo, what's good, man? It's your boy Jalen Wilson, man. Um, we solo dolo here right now, so um, but I'm here to talk to y'all about the Lions versus Packers game. And this is probably my favorite game this week, just because to see what the Lions is gonna do with all their injuries. Right now I'm gonna read you the injury report. So I'm just read their key injuries as they're missing star wide receiver Kenny Galladay out with a hamstring injury, and Desmond Trufant, who they picked up during the offseason, he's also out with a hamstring injury. He actually did pretty well last week too. So they're gonna miss his presence. Then you got CJ Moore at safety, who with the already depleted secondary is it's it's kind of it kind of just sucks that they're all injured. Um, I know Jeff Okuda, he was injured last week, which is why he didn't play. But I believe he's going to start this week. So that's a bright side to this Lions roster. We finally get to see Jeff Okuda, the what third, fourth pick in the draft. He actually gets action now. Um, Now I'm gonna move on to the Packers injury report, and they don't really have any key injuries. I mean, I guess you could say guard Lane Taylor is and defensive tackle Kenny Clark are the key injuries. But other than that, they don't really like miss anybody. Um, but I'm gonna get back to the Lions injuries right now. So they're missing Desmond Trufant and C.J. Moore, and that sucks because Justin Coleman, I don't think he's gonna be 100% healthy for this game. But I think that he must play for them to even have a chance. Um, because you really look at it last week that you saw Mr. Trubisky, he tore them up after he, he, he just ripped them to pieces. Right after the players start dropping like flies and out in that Detroit secondary, he just ripped them to pieces, and it kind of scares me because if you look at it, Aaron Rodgers, who was light years ahead of Mr. Trubisky, he threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns, and 2 of those touchdowns came from Devontae Adams, who had 156 yards and 2 touchdowns with 14 receptions, and that was against a better secondary in the Vikings. Um, so I don't really know what they're going to do, but the Packers also concern you because you were looking last week. Uh, they allowed 36 points to the Vikings, and I really think this Packers defense, like I really want them to be good, but I don't know if they're going to be good. You know, because last week, I mean, Dalvin Cook only had 50 rush yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. So you know that counts for something. Um, Adam Thielen had a 100 plus yard game, and I really think that. But to be honest, with Marvin, with Kenny Galladay out, sorry, Kenny Galladay, with him being out, I really think that Marvin Jones is gonna have to step up. And also, T.J. Hawkinson is gonna have to step up. He didn't play good last week. I'm just saying that right now. But Marvin Jones also is gonna have to step it up. He had 4 receptions for 55 yards, no touchdowns, and that's not bad for really. I think he can be a second option receiver. Somebody can be a first option receiver with the Lions. But with Kenny Galladay hurt, you need to produce more. And Danny Amendola, who had 5 receptions for 81 yards, who is also nursing a hamstring injury, uh, he's going to be healthy for the game. But even then, it's like the receiving core for them is completely depleted to me without Kenny Galladay, because you can kind of key in on Marvin Jones, and you want to give Danny Amendola them yards, but you only give Marvin Jones them yards to me because Marvin Jones will eat you up. You look at Stafford; he threw for 242 yards, 1 touchdown. That's not necessarily great. Should have been 2 if DeAndre Swift would have caught that touchdown pass near the end of the game, but he didn't. Um, I also think that this Lions defense is bad. I mean, you look at last week, the Bears just tore them up in the run game. Whether it was Tariq Cohen or David Montgomery, it was just bad, and that's not good because the Packers have a good running back in Aaron Jones, but I don't really know what to expect from the Packers this game with their defensive line. I mean, I think Darius Smith is of course he's a beast. Um, Even though Adrian Peterson he rushed for 93 yards last game, which is great for a guy that's 35, if I'm not mistaken. But can they rely on him for this game? I mean, Kerryon Johnson, he literally basically did nothing that whole entire game. He was a non-factor. Um, then you also have the offensive line. The offensive line for the Lions did okay for the most part of protecting Matthew Stafford, but they're gonna have to do a better job this week. Now the Packers, like I said, the defense concerns me. Only thing about the offense that concerns me is that if the Lions are able to slow down Devontae, is Scantling going to be able to step up? Is Lazard going to be able to step up? Is Eric Jones even going to be able to step up? But still, even with that, I think the Packers are going to win. And I don't think it's really going to be close. 28-7 Packers. This being your boy Jalen. I'm out.
Yo, what's up? It's Moon Vibes, and I'm here to present to you this special segment in fantasy football on Real Ones Productions entitled I'm Locked Up. And I will be giving you players that I have on my bench this week in fantasy that I am not starting no matter what, and they might as well be in prison. We start our segment with journeying off to a Monday night football game that is garnering a lot of excitement between the New Orleans Saints and the Oakland Raiders. The quarterback for the Saints is Drew Brees, and he has an ESPN projected points total of 18.4. The question of the segment is, what is an aging quarterback's worst wish heading into week 2 of the NFL season? Losing one of the best receivers in football and an instant target vacuum in Sean Payton's offense? Of course, it's obvious that Michael Thomas not suiting up in this game is terrible for Drew Brees. It's simply just true. Last season, Thomas accounted for 30.1% of Drew Brees' fantasy points. Of course, they'll need to get Emmanuel Sanders up to speed. They have Jared Cook and Alvin Kamara, and we've seen Traquan Smith have impressive days as well. The over-under for this game is quite high at 48.5 points. And honestly, we saw nothing in week 1 from the Raiders defense that puts fear into us because they gave up 30 points to the Carolina team that had Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback. One of my worries is that the Saints go to a run-heavy approach in this game and establish their dominance. For context, they had a rush rate of 47.7% last week in a context against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they were leading a ton of the game and they were heavy favorites. Meanwhile, they're heavy favorites in this one, currently at 5.5 point favorites at the debut of Allegiant Stadium in Sin City, Las Vegas. The Saints defense, I believe, is for real. Now, they should have no issue throwing monkey wrenches into the Raiders' game plan with John Gruden, Spider Y2 Banana. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's always a chance that Taysom Hill gets in his bag because head coach Sean Payton allows him to come up with some plays, get some play time, and just ultimately just gets creative. But we have to also factor in Michael Thomas's absence, and that's important. Fun fact, Taysom Hill has more than 15 snaps played in 5 consecutive games, ladies and gentlemen. I like the Saints to win this game. They do so by covering the spread easily. And honestly, the Saints don't need a lot from Drew Brees to do so. Last week, Drew Brees he went 18 for 30, 2 touchdowns, and 160 yards. You might as well get the handcuffs because Drew Brees, you're locked up, and I'm not letting you out of my bench this week. My second player that I have locked up this week, Melvin Gordon III. The Denver Broncos play the Steelers this week. And he has an ESPN projected points total of 11.4. But before we get into this, let's talk about what happened this past week on Monday night. Saquon, 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 Saquon. Oh, yeah, did I mention Saquon? The Giants are wasting Saquon's prime years because they can't draft right with their offensive line, and they don't have the quarterback that instills fear or at least decent respect into a defense with the addition of Daniel Jones. You know who else doesn't have a quarterback that doesn't instill fear into a defense? The Denver Broncos with Drew Lock. Now, Saquon had 15 carries for just 6 yards against the Steelers on Monday night. Red alert, red alert. Melvin Gordon is not Saquon Barkley, ladies and gentlemen. Talent for talent, I'm choosing Saquon every single time. But peep this. I choose Saquon, but the Denver's offensive line isn't as bad as the Giants. And with Philip Lindsay now missing this game with turf toe, and as us fantasy owners not knowing whether to stash him or to get rid of him and drop him, it seems to be a glimmer of hope that there could and should be more fantasy production from Melvin Gordon. But that glimmer of hope will meet its demise on Sunday afternoon. Listen, ladies and gents, the Steelers' defense and their defensive line is nothing to be played with, and their defense as a whole is downright fast, physical, and just scary. They've only allowed just 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs over their past 17 games. Since the start of 2019, the only running back that was utilized enough to score 14 or more points against Pittsburgh, and that back was, drumroll please, Kareem Hunt. And I strongly believe that statement will be the truth after this Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, Melvin Gordon, keep him on your bench because he's locked up and we're not letting him out this week. For Moon Vibes and our special segment, I'm locked up. This is Real Ones Productions. Yo, it's Moon Vibes and Lever KT of Real Ones Productions with this possible trap game. The Chiefs and the Chargers are taking on each other. And before we get started, let's get into the injury report. And I'll start with the Chiefs. So we have 3 players is out. Travaris Ward, hand, did not practice. He's out. Alex Okafor, hamstring, did not practice. He's out. DT Kalen Saunders, elbow, did not practice. He is out. Center Austin Reeder had a knee. He practiced in full participation. Offensive guard Kalichi Asimile had an ankle. He practiced full, which is big because he was moving a lot of people out of the way in that previous game. Definitely going to need him. D tackle Derek Noddy had an ankle. He practiced in full. DB Juan Thornhill knee practiced in full, and running back Daryl Williams had a hamstring practice in full, and all those players are supposed to be active and ready to go. Besides the 3 that are out. Now, when we get to the Chargers, on the other hand, Joey Bosa had a triceps injury. He was practicing full. He's supposed to be playing. Running back Justin Jackson had a quad, and he did not practice. He is actually doubtful for this game. Tight end Donald Parham had an illness, practicing full. Right guard Trey Turner had a knee, practicing full. Cornerback Casey Hayward, central piece of that secondary, had a knee, he practiced in full. And we had wide receiver Mike Williams with the shoulder, practicing full. And also QB Tyrod Taylor had a ribs injury, he practiced in full. The only player who is likely won't play for the Chargers is running back Justin Jackson. Justin had his career best game against the Chiefs during his lone start in 2018. Joey Bosa was upgraded to a full participant in practice on Friday, so he's good to go, but monitor his status as we get closer to the game. Tyrod Taylor, who was listed with a rib injury. That's not an ideal injury when you're missing your starting center and could face interior pressure all day. But that is the injury report from Moon Vibes for both the Chiefs and the Chargers for this week 2 trap game. So you mentioned this being a trap game originally when we did the schedules. Tell me why you felt like that, and you felt strongly about that too.
Yeah. I feel really strongly about this being a trap game. One, it's a divisional game. 2, it's out LA. And 3, I just feel like they have some matchups that they can explore. Big receivers like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen against the corners. For Kansas City, I love to see that matchup. Anthony Lynn's preparation week to week, I feel like he's going to try to win this game by keeping the score low, keeping Mahomes off the field. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about 10 plus play possessions, and he's going to preach to Tyrod Taylor not turning the ball over. And I don't think we're going to see Tyrod turn the ball over. I feel like that was the biggest difference in the Texans game when they lost to the Chiefs. A couple things I think about when it comes to this game is the new rookie running back Edwards-Helaire. We seen what he did
Yeah.
on the opening night of the NFL. So I think they'll have some successes there. And then we know Andy Reid's record. Like, he's 18-3 after a bye. Even though this isn't a bye, he had 10 days to prepare for the Chargers, and we know what Andy Reid does there. But I'm not going with the Chiefs.
What?
Give me the Chargers this game. Y'all know me.
What?
I'm a fan of the underdog. I think that the Chargers are going to be able to keep their offense on the field. They're going to keep away from Patrick Mahomes. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to force Kansas City's defense to stop them. What are your predictions?
So I'm talking to you about some notable matchups that I'm looking forward to and I'm intrigued in for this game. So first off, Chiefs cornerbacks versus the Chargers wide receivers. So Travarius Ward had a broken hand. He's officially been ruled out for Sunday. That's notable. Without him and veteran Bashad Breeland, who's currently on suspension, it would be up to the younger cornerbacks to get the job done. Most likely it would be L'Jarius Sneed, who had a pick last week and played pretty great, and Rashad Benson manning the starting roles. So the team is extremely high on both of these guys, and they feel like they can play them in the multiple spots. Last week, there was not many dynamic plays by the Chargers receivers. Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry largely just sat in soft spots of zone coverage. This is something that we have not seen much of from the savvy route runner of Keenan Allen. And right now, fantasy owners are like, yo, Keenan, I thought you said you got us, bro. You said that you got us, bro, but what's going on? But with a safer quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, and like you said, them not turning the ball over, that it could favor the Chiefs in this game. I'm interested to see the Chiefs' defensive line versus the Chargers' offensive line. One of the things that made me nervous about the Chargers were they're going into that Bengals game was the fact that they had a lot of injuries upon that offensive line. Overall, the Chiefs should not feel too scared about this Chargers blocking unit. I know they have center Mike Pouncey, and he is done for the year, and will also undergo hip surgery. It also has been a constant weakness for the quarterback's blind side of LA. Now, Sam Tevy will need to continually improve after a strong effort last week. Meanwhile, veteran Brian Bulaga could be joined by Trey Turner, who was actually on the injury report on the right side. And if Turner can play and return from injury, that would be really dope. Now, having those two would definitely help Tyrod, who's battling with some rib injuries, and you do not want him to take any hits right now.
Right.
But the entire group has their work cut out for them after the week one. Now, what I'm more nervous about is this whole matchup of Frank Clark and Chris Jones, who kind of were, I don't want to say quiet, but they did their best in what their role was for this game. Their duties were for this game. Now their get off was like mesmerizing, especially for Frank Clark, who looks to be as like the healthiest that he's been since he was like in Seattle a few years ago. But it wasn't just those two. It was Steve Spagnuolo's attack with multiple fronts, multiple looks, and I heard a fun fact. Did you know that the Chiefs they don't run a single formation on defense more than 20% of the time?
That's crazy.
So they're constantly switching it up, doing things like that. They registered 24 quarterback pressures last week, which was 60% of Deshaun Watson's dropbacks. Think about that. If that inability to apply pressure continues, it could be a long day for the Chargers.
No doubt.
My gut feeling for this game is telling me, hey, yeah, it is a trap game, but don't let your mind get you. Don't let your heart get you over what your mind is telling you. Like, your mind's telling you Chiefs, but your heart is like, yo, Chargers. I'm just gonna be until somebody knocks them off. Until somebody comes in and says, "Hey, we are ready for you, and we can match up with you in this particular day, whether it's division, conference, or even on the other side." I'm gonna pick with the Chiefs. My final score will probably be in the ballpark of Chiefs after Andy Reid on a bye week for 10 days. Give me Chiefs 34, Chargers 24.
Hey man, hey, nobody in the league prepares better than Andy Reid. That's Chiefs, Chargers. I'm Lever KT, and that's your boy Moon Vibes. Up next, we got the Cowboys and the Falcons.
Yo, it's Jalen Wilson and Moon Vibes here with our potential game of the week. I asked Jalen about that in a second. But before we get into this interesting game between the Falcons and the Cowboys, let's get dive into the injury report really quickly. So for the Cowboys, they have Anthony Brown with the ribs. He did not practice except on Friday, and it was in limited capacity. He's questionable for the week. Mari Cooper, foot injury. He was limited on Thursday, practiced in full on Friday. He's supposed to be going full tilt. Jordan Lewis, cornerback, he had an ankle. He practiced at full capacity all week. He is not injury designated going into the game. Alden Smith is dealing with a tooth, and he did not practice on Thursday, did not practice on Friday either, but he's supposed to be going full tilt in the game. And last but not least, Tyron Smith, tackle, has a neck injury, and he did not practice all week, and he's questionable for the game. It would be big loss if he's not able to play. Other notable injury, Leighton Vander Esch is on the IR with a broken collarbone, and we'll re-diagnose him and assess him after 3 weeks to see where he's at. That's the injuries for the Cowboys. Now the Falcons are more injuries, but I'm gonna take my time with it. So let's start with the offensive line. James Carpenter, he's not injury related. He didn't practice all week, but he's supposed to be going good going into the game. Jake Matthews, he is the tackle for the Falcons. He has a knee injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Practiced on limited capacity on Thursday and Friday. He's questionable for the game. Kendall Sheffield, cornerback, is out with a foot injury, and he did not practice all week. DeAndre Sanat, D tackle, has a knee injury. He was limited in capacity on Thursday and Friday, and he's expected to be going full tilt on the game. Alex Mack had a non-injury related injury, and he sat out all week, including Thursday, where he did not participate. He's supposed to go. Chris Lindstrom, guard, second year guard, had a thumb, and he practiced in full capacity on Thursday and Friday. We also have a situation where Julio Jones is on the injury report again with the hamstring, and he practiced in limited capacity all week. And for those fantasy managers out there, I am not concerned about Julio at all. We always see him on the injury report. However, he comes out and gives us everything he has every week. He's a consummate professional. Charles Harris, defensive end, he's had dealing with an ankle injury. He did not practice all week, and he's also out. Marlon Davidson, D tackle, he's dealing with the knee. He practiced in limited capacity all week. However, the Falcons don't want to rush him back right now, since he is our star rookie, and he is doubtful going into the game. Dante Fowler has an ankle. He practiced in full all week. Todd Gurley was taking the week off for rest. And that is your injury report for the Atlanta Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys going into their game on Sunday. So I'll pass it over to Jalen. Jalen, I guess first question coming to you right now is this a potential game of the week for you?
Um, yes, just from a just from a talent standpoint, as of course, on the Cowboys side of the ball, you have Dak Prescott, Zeke, who one of the best running backs in the game right now. Then you got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. And on top of that, you got Jalen Smith, linebacker on defense. So I think, and then on the Falcons, of course, you have a Julio, Matt Ryan, Todd Gurley, and Calvin Ridley. So from a talent standpoint, yes, it has potential to be game of the week. Is it going to be? I don't really know. Especially with Leighton Vander Esch being out. Because I really think that hurts the Cowboys a lot, of course, because he's
Mm-hmm.
one of the better linebackers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So is it going to be game of the week? Or does it have potential? Yes. Is it? I don't think so.
So we saw Russell Wilson absolutely just torch us. It was barbecue dirty bird that they had for Russell Wilson. He killed us. Do you see Dak having a similar output against our Falcons defense?
I say that's hard to. It's hard, because I would say that's hard to answer because Russell is of course a better thrower than Dak Prescott, of course. But when you account for the fact that the Cowboys have three good receivers on their receiving core, I think he has potential. He has potential to have that type of game. Does he have that exact game? I don't think so. He might
So could
throw. Wait, go ahead.
so he might be in a situation where you see him. Do you see him being over or under 40 passing attempts?
Well, he had 39 passing attempts against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that even came with Ezekiel Elliott having 22 carries.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy Pollard only had two. But I expect them to try to get more of Troy Pollard involved. But I would say if 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 passing is going well for him, he's definitely gonna have over 40 passing attempts.
Yeah, it was barbecue chicken in our secondary. Do you have any hot takes for this game? Any bold predictions for this game? Because I can always count on you to just shock me, surprise me with these bold predictions. So give it to me. You might as well just lay it out on the line.
Um, well, I have Dak going for 3 touchdowns.
Interesting. Interesting. I would ask who, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
And also, my hot take is, I mean, I don't know if this is such a hot take, but um, Ty Gurley has a bad game.
Has a bad game. Wow.
Yes.
I was not expecting you to say that. That's That's very interesting, bro. So you pretty much broke down the Cowboy side of the ball. Let me get into my Falcons really quick. But before I do, what's your pick for this game?
I
Just
got
based
the
off of gut feeling.
gut feeling Cowboys. Yeah.
Hmm.
Even with Vander Esch collarbone injury, I still got the Cowboys winning.
Do you have a score for the audience?
I don't have one, but I can come up with one right now off the top of my head. Cowboys 24, Falcons 17.
Mm. They. So it's more of a defensive battle than we thought, and it's probably less than the over under, which is probably the highest of the week right now. Um, I'm excited for this game. It's pretty much one of the games that I'm excited for the most out of the week 2 slate of games. If this is right up there with the game of the week with the Patriots and the Seahawks with potential. Another shocking game of the week that I think could be is Washington football team versus Arizona. Sneaky good game. This is defensive battles for those who love defense. But this game, I think, is going to be all about offense. But we can't have good offense and productive offense if we don't talk about the trenches. So the Falcons' offensive line was all over the place on Sunday. Let's just be real. Jake Matthews and James Carpenter both played decently. However, the rest of the unit, not so much. Alex Mack is a veteran who you would hope that could bounce back after his questionable game. But I'm more so concerned about the two young guys, Langstrom and McGarry on our offensive line. They did a job. They did a good job of pass blocking, but not a good job as far as run blocking. And in fact, not only them, but rookie guard Matt Hennessy, who shared snaps with James Carpenter, was the best pass blocker of the day. But if we being real on Real Ones Productions, this unit seems like they're better suited to protect Matt Ryan than they are to block for Todd Gurley. So your hot take with you saying that Todd Gurley doesn't have a good game, I could see that happening just because it seems like we're able to pass protect more than we are to run block. But on the other side of it, Todd Gurley because of the game script and how that had to go out of the window because we got down big early.
Uh-huh.
We had to slow down as far as feeding him. But when you talk about the Cowboys and the team that you're breaking down, Don Terry Poe and Tyron Crawford are, good interior pieces on their line. You have Everson Griffin and Demarcus Lawrence, as well as Alden Smith, who's been, very, very interesting and could be a potential comeback player of the year type candidate for
Yeah, he
this
had a
year.
good game last game.
Had a great game against the Rams, but I believe Atlanta has improved their offensive line. It just didn't really show up against the Seahawks. However, I think that the Cowboys have an advantage when it comes to the line play.
Hmm.
Let's talk about Matt Ryan real quick before I have a chance. Matt Ryan had a sneaky good opening game, 450 yards passing. Three receivers went over 100 yards. Julio had a monster game. Calvin Ridley really showcased me a lot. He's seeming to blossom, but the surprise was Russell Gage getting over 100 after taking a kind of a weird hit by Jamal Adams earlier in the game that made him get knocked out, go to concussion protocol for a second. He came back, but I'm interested to see how this offense uh, exploits this secondary that has some pieces missing. They also have some pieces coming in too, and I'm honestly Trayvon Diggs, former Alabama product, might be matched up against Julio Jones, the former Alabama product. Do not leave him 1-on-1. Please roll your safety, your coverage over, please. But I think this game is interesting for offense. But let's talk about defense for your Cowboys real quick. Leighton Vander Esch, we talked about, is going to be on IR. And it hurts significantly, especially with Sean Lee on IR too. So Jalen Smith, he's going to be counted on heavily.
Yeah.
Not only to stop the run, but like to hold up in the pass game. Um, this offers a chance for Xavier Woods and Darian Thompson to be a good pairing, and they have a tough task ahead of them with guarding the speed that comes with the Falcons offense. The corners for the Cowboys are kind of like a mixed bag. They got Chidobe Awuzie,
Hmm.
but he's being the best of the bunch. He's a really good player, but like we just said, with Trayvon Diggs having a tough assignment, no matter who he matches with, and Anthony Brown could be in a long day, in for a long day playing that nickel spot. We breaking down the matchups individually, but that's what we're going to see. That's what my eyes are going to be on yet again. This has to come down to protecting Matt Ryan. If they do, the Falcons should be able to pick up a boatload of yards. I don't see them going to the extent of passing for 450 like they did against the Seahawks, because I really do think that the Seahawks defense is not as good as advertised. However, I know it's a big if to protect him. I think Atlanta needs to be ready to do what it takes to keep the quarterback clean and in the pocket. Limited quarterback hurries. It's going to be a tough task, but I'm confident in the Falcons' edge. I'm gonna do something that I don't normally do.
What's that?
As much as I want to pick my home team, I can't. I can't. I can't pick my home team in this game. I'm going to do some reverse psychology. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win this game by a score of Cowboys 32, Falcons 30. Game winning field goal by the Cowboys kicker. And that's how that's how it walks off.
Can
Now,
I ask
all
you?
go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say, can I ask you a question? Does AJ Terrell have a bounce back week?
No.
Oh,
I said that too fast, but no. It's gonna be a long season for him if he doesn't get his stuff together. And I'm just saying that as bluntly as possible because what I saw last week was like disappointing. After I've kind of just been defending him and everything like that.
yeah.
But nah. As far as the secondary, we we gave up barbecue chicken numbers to Russell Wilson and we let him cook. And it's not a good look. But our secondary, it leaves it makes me nervous going into this game, trying to hold up against Amari and Gallup and CD Lamb as well. Not even including trying to stop Zeke. So they're really in a tough situation. And if y'all went into the game against Seattle saying, "Hey, well, we want to stop Seattle, stop them running," you're going to be in a even tougher situation right now going up against Dak and the Cowboys. So I'm using some reverse psychology. Of course, I want my Falcons to win, but as far as real one pick'ems, I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win with the score of 32-30. Walk off field goal just to do us dirty, and we start the year off 0-2. For us at Real Ones Productions, this was our segment on Falcons versus Cowboys. Now we're off to the next segment. We'll see you soon. Yo, what's up? It's Moon Vibes, and I'm here for a special fantasy segment entitled "Put Me in, Coach." Well, I would talk to you about players that are sleepers in daily fantasy and in your leagues, in deep leagues specifically, that you need to pick up and you need to place in your roster this week because they can be the difference between you winning and you losing. Up first, rostered in 45% of leagues and a DraftKings daily fantasy price of $5,900. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are not tanking. Don't let the Jacksonville Jaguars week one performance fool you. They played against a turnover-prone quarterback in Phillip Rivers, who threw 20 interceptions last season and suited up for the first time with the Indianapolis Colts with no preseason. In short, this defense isn't a unit to stay away from in fantasy. Ryan Tannehill has had a decent outing against a tough Vic Fangio-led Denver Broncos defense that can still generate pressure without Von Miller, who's sidelined because of a dislocated perennial tendon. He threw 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. He connected with Corey Davis on 7 out of 8 targets for a team high 101 yards. Adam Humphries caught 6 passes for 47 yards. Tight ends Jonnu Smith and Miko Pruitt each hauled in touchdown catches against Denver. Tannehill showed the ability to spread the football all around. He could test a reconstructed Jaguars defense more than Rivers could. You have to start him with confidence. You got to tell him, "Put me in, coach." Up next, we have Mitch Trubisky versus the Giants. 6% rostered right now, which is totally shocking. And a DraftKings daily fantasy price of $5,500 against the Detroit Lions in the season opener. Mitch Trubisky did most of his damage in the fourth quarter. We know that. He threw for 89 yards and 3 touchdowns within the final 15 minutes. Let that sink in. On Sunday, he'll face a New York Giants defense that allowed 117.8 passer rating to Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger, fresh off of his return from his elbow injury. Trubisky contested Giants' new primary starters in the secondary with Julian Love at safety, Corey Ballantyne on the boundary, and rookie fourth rounder Darnay Holmes in the slot. If you smell barbecue chicken, say it. This is barbecue chicken. Don't forget, Trubisky can tuck the ball and run if it's necessary. He recorded a 20-yard gain last week on the ground. Mitch Trubisky, he's telling Matt Nagy, "Put me in, coach." Up next, we have the running back position. Old man who doesn't seem to lose a step. Adrian Peterson versus the Green Bay Packers, who is 58% rostered right now on a DraftKings daily fantasy price of $4,700. He's going really cheap, ladies and gentlemen. Before you fade the Detroit Lions 3-man backfield, take a look at what AP did in his first game with the team. A week after Peterson signed with the Lions, he became the lead ball carrier, rushing 14 times for 93 yards. He tacked on 3 catches for 21 yards as well. Offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell clearly trusts him, which means that it makes sense considering that he worked with 3-time rushing champion for 4 seasons from 2007 and 2010. And where? Oh, yeah, that's why AP looked like he had flashbacks from being in Minnesota. Darrell Bevell is going to turn back the clock to Peterson's heyday with the Vikings. Though the history between the two suggests that the 35-year-old could have a steady role on early downs with the Lions. Expect them to have logged about 15 to 20 carries against the Green Bay Packers defense that allowed 134 rushing yards against Minnesota in week 1. We telling AP, put me in, coach. Last but not least, Joshua Kelly versus the Kansas City Chiefs, who's 36% rostered with the DraftKings daily fantasy price of 4,700, similar to AP. In the Los Angeles Chargers' first game, running back Justin Jackson exited with a quadricep injury, which he's still affected by, which allowed Joshua Kelly to take on a significant role. The rookie fourth rounder logged 12 carries for 60 yards and a TD. Kelly ripped off a 26-yard gain on the ground in the third quarter and took multiple carries inside the 10-yard line. He's a good plug-and-play option until Jackson returns. Head coach Anthony Lynn hasn't ruled out Jackson for week 2 now, but the Chargers called up running back Darius Bradwell from the practice squad. That suggests the ailing tailback commits some serious time. Jackson didn't practice Wednesday, so pick up Kelly and hold on to him. You never know. But for this week, the Chargers may try to keep Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes on the sideline with a run heavy attack and a lot of dink and dunk passes with Tyrod Taylor. Joshua Kelly, he's looking at Tyrod and Anthony Lynn saying, put me in, coach, for the special edition of Moon Vibes and your daily fantasy. This is Real One's production, signing off.
We got the Washington football team versus the Arizona Cardinals out there in Arizona, 4:25 p.m. game. Let's give you the injury report for both teams. First up for Washington, we got Cole Holcomb, linebacker. His status was announced today that he'll be out. Thomas Davis, who didn't play in the opener, he is listed as questionable, so that can possibly be good news for the Washington football team. Also, Kendall Fuller, their starting cornerback, has been listed as questionable as well. In Friday's practices, he was limited. Thomas Davis was full, so expect Thomas Davis. I believe that Kendall Fuller will be a game-time decision. Over to Arizona, we got Mason Cole, who did not practice Friday, and of course his game status is listed as out. Kyle Pitts, linebacker, he was limited in practice on Friday, and he is listed as questionable. Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, and Jalen Thomas are all listed on the Friday's participation, with Jalen Thomas being on injured reserve, and Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins is full. They will definitely be playing. Max Williams, their tight end, is out. And their offensive tackle, Josh Jones, is listed as questionable. This game is going to be very exciting. I will be glued to the TV at 4:25. What is your take on this game, Jalen?
My take on the game is this game is going to be game of the week. And I mainly say that because the defensive line for the football team is very dangerous. And we all saw what they did against a depleted offensive line, the Eagles, last week. They embarrassed them. And I don't think that this Cardinals offensive line is, it ain't as bad as last year, but I don't think it's like really superior to the the defensive line that the football team has. But one thing I am excited about the Cardinals to see is the connection between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had 151 yards the last game and 14 receptions. And then you had Kyler Murray on top of that having 230 yards passing. Even though he only had one touchdown, he also had a one interception. One guy I hope they get more and try to get more involved in this team is Christian Kirk. He only had one reception last game. But with Kendall Fuller being out, I think that, it's going to be a game time decision with Kendall Fuller. But if Kendall Fuller is out, that's definitely a big blow to me for the football team. Because I think he's one of their better cornerbacks. I also want to mention that this defense for the Cardinals is very good to me. You you have Pat Pete, who, if he don't make tackles or anything, his presence is still felt on the field. Then and then on top of that, you have Chandler Jones rushing from the edge. He just surpassed 100 total sacks for his entire
Wow.
career.
Congratulations.
Yep, and then you have Isaiah Simmons, who I think he did pretty fine for a rookie. In week one, he had 3 tackles, which I mean, some people want linebackers to be more involved in tackles, but it is what it is. He's a rookie, uh, but I just think that it's kind of hard to doubt the Redskins, the football team, because you have to think they came down from 17-0 last week, and the fact that they can face that type of adversity and just bounce back at halftime uh, speaks volumes about Dwayne Haskins and Ron Rivera, just the leadership that they bring in this season to the football team. But with that being said, I do think that that I have Washington winning this 27-24 on a game-winning field goal.
Wow, so you have the Washington football team taking this one out in Arizona. Um, I watched the Washington Philly game in its entirety. I had that on one screen. I did had the Bills and Jets on the other screen, and their defense pressured the hell out of Carson Wentz. They had numerous pressures. They sacked him 8 times. They made him extremely uncomfortable. I will call Carson Wentz a mobile quarterback. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback. Not as shifty as Kyler Murray, of course, but I like what I seen. More importantly, I'm going to make a parallel here. Ron Rivera is a no nonsense type of guy. Hell, he's out there battling cancer and coaching. Like, if you don't want to go out there and fight for a coach like that, you're not gonna fight for anybody. And it's been a major difference. And I'm gonna make a parallel within Buffalo. Buffalo had Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan is a player's coach. But sometimes you need that no nonsense. You need that discipline. We got Sean McDermott, who's from the Ron Rivera tree, and he came and he brought success to Buffalo almost instantly. It didn't take much time at all. Ron Rivera is respected. He was on the 85 Bears. And the growth I seen in Dwayne Haskins Jr. from last year to him taking a selfie and missing being able to get in a victory formation last year to now, like, even when the team was down, he's still over there. Defense got to stop. He's dapping all of them up. Like, the leadership in him, I didn't see that coming out of college. I don't know if you did, but I like what I see in Washington. I live in the metropolitan area, the DMV, so I get all of the Washington football team's games. So I'm interested to see exactly what they're going to do. This game out of the Big 8 that we do every week was the hardest for me to pick. But I am going to go with Washington. It will be a 24-17 game. I'm taking Washington, but this game is definitely a tough call. What is the number one matchup you want to see this week, Jalen?
Between who? These two teams?
Yeah, these two teams. What matchup you're looking forward to seeing?
The Cardinals, quarterback Kyler Murray against this defensive line, just to see how he can adjust. Just see the pressure that they try to throw at Kyler Murray. Try to get him, cold feet a little bit, try to run everything. But that's the number one matchup for me.
Yes, I will have to agree. I need to see is this Washington football team defensive line for real? And I think they are indeed for real. Another matchup I'm excited to see is Scary Terry McLaurin versus Pat Pete. I think that'll be an interesting lineup if they are matched up quite often. Because even though Scary Terry is undersized, man, he's a precise route runner. He always seems to be open. And of course, he played with Dwayne Haskins Jr. in college, so they already have that built up rapport. But anything else you would like to add to this Washington versus Arizona game?
Not really. As far as I want to say that Ron Rivera got an IV during halftime, and Dwayne Haskins stepped up and gave a halftime speech. I want to say I'm happy for him to show like this amount of leadership because I really thought he was a leader at Ohio State, but people had questions about it his first year in the NFL. But I think he clearly answered those questions. You know, this past game.
Absolutely. So if you are the GM of the New York Football Giants, you have the opportunity to take Dwayne Haskins Jr. or Daniel Jones. Who are you taking?
I want to say Dwayne Haskins just because I see his ceiling being a lot higher than Daniel Jones. But even without the ceiling, I still want to take Dwayne Haskins. So,
and I think that question will definitely be asked for years to come. So this was our segment on Washington and Arizona. It will definitely be an exciting game this upcoming week. Up next, we got our personal favorite, rapid fire questions. Let's go. Welcome to Rapid Fire Questions. This is a segment of our show where we ask each panelist a question. They got 5 to 7 seconds to answer that question. Certain questions I want further insight, so I will give them an additional 5 seconds. If they taking too long to answer a question, I'm going to give them a simple next, and we're going to keep it moving. First question. Was the Bears-Lions game of the week? Brad, go.
In my opinion, yes, because I feel like there's not many teams that come back by 21 points in the fourth quarter, so I would say yes.
Jalen, go.
yes, with them being down multiple scores and then Mr. Trubisky playing bad throughout like the whole game except for the fourth quarter, and that come down to the last second, so yes, it's the game of the week.
Moon Vibes, go.
Marvin Jones channeled his inner AP because they've been hanging around a lot with that little truck stick on the rookie. Welcome to the NFL, good sir. But yeah, if DeAndre Swift didn't drop that pass, man, Lions would have had an upset win, and that would have added on to it. But even though it still was a great game.
Excellent game. I agree with your insight. For my money, I'm going with the Raiders Panthers, but that's neither here nor there. Were we wrong about the Jags? Next question, I want you to all answer in unison. Are the Jaguars tanking? Go.
Yes.
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 That was pretty easy. Were we wrong about the Jags? Brad, go.
Absolutely.
Jalen, go.
I'm gonna say yes because if you look at their roster, they're not really blowing up or anything. They still picked up good pieces during the offseason. So I don't know why we ever looked at like the tanking for Trevor.
Moon Vibes, go.
The reason why we looked at it as tanking is because we focused on the pieces that they lost instead of looking at the pieces that they still have, and they made it do with the win against Indy with the pieces that they had. You mentioned Joe Montana channeled his. My bad. Gardner Minshew channeled his inner Joe Montana for this game with this completion percentage being so high. But I think that we was just thinking the tanking because of the offseason departures instead of looking at who they still have on their roster.
Great insight. Are the Steelers defense that good, or is the Giants O line that bad? Brad, go.
I'm in the middle of this one because I feel like the Steelers defense is just really, really good, and I feel like the Giants offensive line just needs to be a bit better.
Jalen, go.
I'm gonna say it's both, just because um uh of course the defensive line is incredible, but the Giants' offensive line wasn't really blocking that much. I mean, they do a handoff, and the Steelers' defensive line be in the backfield in like a second. So yeah.
Mo.
It's all about the Steelers here. Not only is their defense that good, that has nothing to do with the Giants. They picked up the fill a piece in their puzzle with their offensive line, adding Andrew Thomas in the offseason,
Mhm.
rookie out of Georgia. Um, Not saying that he's going to be an All Pro or Pro Bowler or anything like that, but he's a plug and play. With that being said, it doesn't matter who the Steelers play. If you have a running back that's playing the Steelers, just sit them, please.
Mm,
Melvin Gordon, sit him, please. The Steelers' defense is for real, ladies and gentlemen, and they showed that on Monday night.
Is Steven Koskowski washed? Brad, go.
uh, yeah.
Jalen, go.
Um, well, as a Patriots fan, it hurts to say yes, just because he made so many clutch field goals for us in the
Absolutely.
past, but the way he was looking Monday night, it was we're excited.
Move vibes, go.
He was about to get cut after Monday night. They was about to have his bags packed expeditiously and get him out of there. It was bad for him. And all jokes aside, the only other kicker that I could say who had a worse week one performance is probably your guy in Cincinnati, Randy Bullock, who tried to fake an injury when he missed the game winning kick. That's the only worst performance. But yeah,
Wow.
he's on the downside, and I'm sorry to say that, Steve.
Tough insight. Are the Colts now in line for Trevor Lawrence? Brad, go.
I mean, it's too early in the season to like ask that question at this point.
Jalen, go.
Since it's just week one, I mean, I don't think they're in line for him. But they're in like a weird situation right now with the quarterback.
Moon vibes, go.
With the situation with Indianapolis, the reason why we even having this as a question is the fact that they lost to the team that we thought that was tanking, that really isn't tanking. So with them, it's yes, early as week one. The schedule lightens up, but if you just look at the division right now, I don't even think they're going to be at the bottom of their division. To be in a conversation to get Trevor Lawrence, you have to be the worst team in the NFL, not just the worst team in your division. And I don't think that the Colts going to be the worst team in the NFL. So no.
Wow. Did we underestimate Adam Thielen as a number one receiver? Brad, go.
I think so because he has been underrated for the last couple of years, and I feel like he's just been building momentum throughout those years, and he's just finally showing it off here with Stephon Diggs gone.
Great point. Jalen, go.
I say yes, just because he has had Stephon Diggs by his side for years now, and we never really knew what he was like being like the true number one receiver. But now he is, and he showed flashes of what he can be as a true number one receiver last week.
Great point. Moon vibes.
Fun fact: Adam Thielen was already the number one receiver on the Minnesota Vikings. Stephon Diggs was the number two. Adam Thielen was far more productive than Stephon Diggs ever was. If he wasn't, why you think that the Minnesota Vikings traded Diggs in the first place? I think that Adam Thielen does not get enough credit, and if I'm having him on my fantasy team, I'm starting him every week, regardless of the matchup. He's number one. The only thing that worries me is Kirk Cousins, because although I don't have faith in him as being the starter for Minnesota, he has an undeniable connection with Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I believe that was part of the reason why Diggs left because and Kirk Cousins' eyes stealing was always his favorite target. Is it Tua time in Miami yet? Brad, go.
I don't think so yet. I feel like it's gonna be towards the middle of the season when they bring him in.
Jalen, go.
Not yet. I'm gonna say two times gonna come around week 6, week 7.
Moon vibes, go.
It hurts me to say this, but two a time should have already started in week 1. And the longer that they take to make this decision, the more losses that they're going to have on their resume. Especially for Brian, the head coach, who's a phenomenal head coach, by the way, doesn't get enough credit.
Absolutely.
But he has to make that executive decision sooner or later. Although I doesn't think it happens right now. Uh, Fitzpatrick isn't so magical as everybody seems to think. So yeah,
To further go into that question, Moon vibes. As a coach, a lot of coaches aren't given years to fix this thing. Like the NFL has always been a league of now. So if you're the coach of the Dolphins, are you comfortable with starting Tua? You know, him having his bumps and bruises. You may go 6-10, 7-9, with a chance to get a wild card. Probably not. Are you comfortable with the fact that you may have your job at the end of the year?
I'm comfortable with that because I'm not comfortable right now with Ryan Fitzpatrick as my starter, and he's throwing 3 picks in the game, and he's a walking wild card. He's a walking Uno wild card. That's what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. Like, so I'm not comfortable with that. I would be more comfortable with Tua any day of the week than I would be with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And it just comes from this. Reports out of Miami is that Tua is perfectly fine. He's just waiting. The only thing is catching up with the offense. But I would rather him have in-game experience than have Ryan Fitzpatrick out there just throwing to the other team.
Hey, I agree with you. If you draft the quarterback high in the first round, I'm not a. I think the only way you could truly be a student is, as Moonbab said, and it's being thrown out there, and you can show what you have. But just sitting him on the bench, you would never know what you have. And 3 years from now, if that's when he starts starting, and you figure out he's not the guy, then you've invested a lot of time for no reasons. The Buffalo Bills play the Dolphins this weekend, and Vegas has them as a 5.5 chance. Let me re-say that. The Buffalo Bills play the Miami Dolphins this weekend. Vegas has them as a 5.5 point winner. Will the Bills cover the spread? Brad, go.
I believe so. Yes.
Jalen, go.
Yes, even though it will be hard with the 2 linebackers being out.
Mm.
But yeah, I think they'll cover the spread.
Moon vibes.
If you watch that game that happened with Miami over this past weekend against Carolina, they kind of kept the game close and limited Cam's passing yards. But we know that the Patriots have an offense that's geared to doing and attacking the weaknesses of their opponent. So if you're horrible against the run, we're just gonna run the ball against you. That's what we saw them do. Josh Allen is a must start this week. And coming in a game where he could have had like 6 touchdowns if he didn't have those 2 fumbles and just kind of, in my opinion, sloppy play. But as far as the point spread, with it being 5.5 going to Miami, I don't feel good about that. It makes me nervous. I won't say, so I'll say no, they don't cover.
Great take. I'm with Moon vibes. I don't think they're going to cover it either, but they'll probably win by 4 points, 3 or 4 points would be my take. Are the 49ers in danger of falling 0-2? Brad, go.
I think so. They just lost the Arizona Cardinals, which they were a Super Bowl contender last season. What happened to that, you know?
Wow, hot take from Brad. Jalen, go.
Yes. And it sucks to say because they've been dealing with so many injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have George Kittle also being out this game, and the Jets can beat them. So yeah, I think they're gonna go 0-2.
Moon vibes.
The thing with the Jets is they have so many injuries, specifically in their receiving core. They probably will be without Jamison Crowder. So who is Sam Darnold going to throw to? Especially with no Le'Veon Bell being on IR. But the thing with the 49ers is that we all expected the Rams to be the bottom of the division, but the Rams could end the weekend being 2-0 and the 49ers would be 0-2. And who would have thought that coming in right after the Super Bowl? So my gut feeling is telling me yes, but for R1P pick'em, I'm picking the 49ers to win.
Excellent insight. Staying with the 49ers and the Jets, is Marcus May a top 5 safety in the NFL? So I watched the Bills and the Jets game in its entirety last week. The best player on that field, even though the Jets lost, was Marcus May. I'm telling you, he made a bunch of plays. He forced a fumble. He had a bunch of pass breakups. He also had 2 sacks. Greg Williams loved using his secondary to send pressure. I do indeed think he's a top 5 safety. Brad, what is your thoughts?
I just don't feel like they played the best competition last week. I'm not saying that he isn't good, but I'm saying it's just too early to tell. It's just week 1. I would just have to watch him more consistently.
Great insight. Jalen, go.
My honest answer is I haven't watched enough of him. So I'm not gonna have a take on this really.
Moon, go.
He was questionable going into the game, and he still led the team to tackles, QB pressures. The way Greg Williams used him, it's like a perfect fit. And Jamal Adams, that is, leaving, couldn't happen at a better time for him and his development and his growth. Marcus May, that is, top 5. I would say yes, even though we've only seen limited with him, and it's the beginning of the season. But throughout the rest of the season, we'll be ahead of this on the Marcus May hype train for him towards the end of the season.
Hey, you heard what Moon Vibe said. R1P will definitely be early on. Marcus made 13 total tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 sacks. Next question. Did we overhype the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Brad, go.
I think so because I just feel like their offense needs a little bit more work. I feel like their defense is up to par though.
Jalen, go.
I'm gonna say yes because most people just looked at pieces they brought in and thought they were just gonna be this unbeatable team. But yeah, I think we overhyped them.
Jalen, staying with you, I think a lot of times we underestimate chemistry. Different sport. We've seen the Clippers, after being up 3-1, get eliminated by the by the Denver Nuggets. Lou Williams said something interesting. He was like, "We don't have the chemistry. We in clutch situations. Who do we even go to?" So, do you think Tampa Bay can be cursed from that, like not having enough chemistry, no preseason, no anything?
Yes, because I mean, with the whole pandemic going on and everything, yes, I mean because you don't have a limited like time of practice, you don't have like the full off season like you normally do. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that played a factor in it.
Absolutely. Moon Vibes, did we overhype the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Absolutely. However, they'll bounce back this week. Easy matchup against the Panthers defense. It'll be a get right game for a team that seems like they can't get right, especially for the first week. The Saints defense is for real, but I do feel as if Tampa Bay is a team that we looked at as one of those paper warrior teams where we look at them on paper and say, wow, they added Tom, they added Gronk, they already had a defense from last year. You shouldn't have let Drew Brees and the Saints put up 30 plus. So yeah, I think that we overhyped them.
Hey, great take, man. Can the Panthers contain the Bucks this weekend? Brad, go.
I don't think so.
Jalen, go.
Yes.
Wow.
Whoa, whoa, we gotta hear more of this, man. Let's go. Let's get it.
Oh, you want to hear more?
Yes, I need to hear more.
So say the question again, please.
Will the Panthers contain the Bucks offense this weekend?
Yes. With the whole chemistry issue, yeah.
Wow. Interesting take. Moon.
Absolutely not. In the words of Shaq Diesel, aka Kazim, aka one of the most dominant people that ever played a game of basketball, it's gonna be barbecue chicken. And it's gonna be similar to we saw Rush cook the Atlanta Falcons this past week. It's gonna be a similar situation with Carolina's defense. And if you have Teddy Bridgewater starting, start him in fantasy. He's gonna be down a lot, so he's gonna have to come back, and that means a lot of throwing opportunities for Teddy. And the game script is just gonna allow it, so they're not gonna be able to contain him.
Hey, that's interesting. So Jalen's bold prediction, one of his bold predictions last week was that Josh Jacobs will finish top 3 in rushing last week, and he got off to an amazing debut this season. Is Jalen correct about Josh Jacobs? Brad, go.
Yes and no. It was the first week of the season, like with a lot of things, so it could have just been the start. So I'm gonna say he could be top 6, maybe.
Top 6, it's still not bad. Jalen, go.
Um, yeah, to me, it will come true mainly because I think most people slept on him last year. He was only 390 yards away from Derrick Henry. Uh,
Wow.
and he missed the last 3 games. So I think he can get that number 1 spot this year.
Moon vibes, go.
I'll be honest, the way I saw Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt run last night kind of made me nervous about this bold prediction, but I'll stay 10 toes down with Jalen and say, yeah, I know that they played Carolina and their defense is left more to be desired, especially with their run defense and go-to-go carries. They gave up 3 touchdowns to Josh Jacobs in the red zone, so that's Carolina defense being bad, but I like the fact that he's a focal point in the bell cow for John Gruden in his system. So with Derek Carr, me still having questions about him, they're gonna have to rely on Josh Jacobs a lot more. So Jalen's pick is looking like, at least right now, that it's gonna come true.
Wow. Excellent take. Is the Saints defense for real? Marshawn Lattimore and the situations where he covered Mike Evans completely shut him down. Shut him down. I think he had 0 catches on him while he was checking him. I don't know who Mike Evans caught the touchdown on, but it was not on Marshawn Lattimore. Are the Saints defense for real? Brad, go.
I would say yes, and I would go back to what you said about Marshawn Lattimore covering Mike Evans pretty dang good. So I would say yes.
Jalen, go.
Yes, and it really hurts me to say this because Saints fans, I'm sorry. I apologize for last week because I said, and you listened to last week. Moon tried to tell me I wasn't listening. But yes, that's for real.
Moon, I also owe the Saints fan an apology. I thought Tampa would win by 2 touchdowns, but clearly I was wrong. Moon vibes, this is your moment. Own it.
I appreciate all the apologies on behalf of Saints fans all around the world. Even though I'm a Falcons fan, we'll take your apologies on their behalf. Saints defense for real, yeah, but they're not the best defense in the league.
Alrighty. So before we leave rapid fire questions, I need each panelist to give me who is the player to watch this week. Brad, go.
I would say just a majority of the Steelers defense. If you saw Bud one guy that really stood out to me last week against the Giants was Bud Dupree and how he was able to just break through the offensive line.
Wow, excellent insight. Jalen, go.
This might sound a little biased, but I'm gonna say Mr. Trubisky mainly because if he plays good, then most the media has to address that he played good and can he be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. But if he plays bad, the media is going to be on him, and they're going to want to say put Nick Foles in. So I think he's a player to watch.
Moon.
Unfortunately, I hate saying this, but my player to watch this week is who we just talked about. My player to watch this week is Tom Brady. We got a lot of criticism. He had his coach call him out. That's not never good, especially you being a future Hall of Famer getting called out by a BA like that. He's been out of hearing it. You know he listens to the media and stuff. I think that he's a player to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a top 3 quarterback this week in fantasy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he totally just torches, and I put emphasis on torches, the Panthers defense. And yeah, that's my hot pick of the week.
My hot take and my hot pick of the week is watch for Carson Wentz. Doug Peterson is going to get him comfortable early against the Rams this week. I think Carson Wentz will have a bounce back week. Look for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Alrighty, this has been Rapid Fire Questions with your boys at R1P. We'll see you on the next segment.